What? Oh, I can't believe she said that. Oh, man. Oh, that's fucked up.
All right, so let me start with you, Mehdi. How would you analyze what you're hearing in response to this murder from the left?
From the left? I mean, just listening to the clips you played from the Trump administration, we're in a very dark moment. It's a very McCarthyite moment right now.
True! Thank you! Of course! We're not going to get this from Cenk Uygur. We're not going to get this from Cenk Uygur. That's not going to happen. Thank you, Mehdi Hasan, to the fucking rescue. Let's fucking go, dude. Let's go.
Now, I've been listening to your show. You made a lot of good points. The biggest point I think you've glossed over is the crackdown on free speech, this targeting of people for their views. I thought Charlie Kirk was supposed to be a free speech martyr. Why are the right using his death to crack down on free speech and American rights and go after this amorphous left? J.D. Vance lied today on the
Charlie Kirk would not have wanted this. You guys are anti-Charlie Kirk. You guys are dishonoring Charlie Kirk's memory. The ones who were talking shit about Charlie Kirk, the ones who were making fun of him dying, they are honoring his memory by using their free speech.
Free speech and American rights and go after this amorphous left. J.D. Vance lied today on the Charlie Kirk show when he said the statistics are clear that this is a left-wing problem. It's the exact reverse, right? Exact reverse. You look at the ADL Center for Extreme...
I showed this to you guys yesterday, but I made this video yesterday as soon as I saw it. As soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, I've been preparing for this motherfucker. This is what J.D. Vance said.
And while our side of the aisle certainly has its crazies, it is a statistical fact that most of the lunatics in American politics today are proud members of the far left. The far left, 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 the far left.
It is a statistical fact that most of the lunatics in American politics today are proud members of the far left.
Left-wing problem. It's the exact reverse, right? Exact reverse. You look at the ADL Center for Extremism, which looked at 444 people killed by extremists between 2013 and 2022, 75% of them by the right. You look at the University of Maryland study that was done for their terrorism center, which found that from 1948 to 2018, right-wing extremists more likely to carry out violence than left-wing extremists. You look at the head of the FBI, who Donald Trump appointed, Chris Wray, who said the #1 domestic terror threat in this country comes from religious and racially motivated extremists, specifically white supremacists. You can keep going. The National Institute for Justice found that the majority of incidents since 1990, violent terroristic acts, were right-wing extremists. The single biggest day of political violence, Chris, in our lifetimes in this country was January 6th, 2021, when right-wing extremists attacked the Capitol, injured police officers. They were ideologically motivated. You and I agreed it was an insurrection at the time. So it's bizarre for Vance to go on TV or go online and say the exact opposite of what both the official statistics say and the think tanks say. All of our evidence tells us. I mean, there was a Democratic lawmaker, Chris, I don't know how many times we have to say this, who was murdered in her home with her husband in June by a Trump supporter. And Donald Trump today said, who? When he was asked about it, he said, who?
Mm-hmm. So, Mehdi, one quick thing. I do not think January 6th was an insurrection. I thought that it was all kinds of crimes.
You said it at the time, Chris.
I just don't.
You called it an insurrection at the time. You did. You did.
No,
I checked your Twitter before I came on
never
air.
thought.
Okay,
Go ahead, show it to me.
Check it afterwards.
I never thought that they were trying to take over the government. That's what an insurrection is. But it doesn't matter. It was bad. But we're dealing with new bad stuff. But
it was political violence.
Murder.
We can agree, right, Chris? It was political violence.
100%. It was political violence, but this was a murder for what somebody was saying. Well,
they were trying to murder Mike Pence, Chris. They were trying to murder Mike Pence.
Well, but they didn't. Those are just words. And if you killed somebody for saying it, you would have had a problem.
Hold on, because he survived? Because Mike Pence survived an assassination?
Yeah, that's not just words. That is something. That is something that does not qualify under free speech. You cannot threaten to kill people. That is not just words. That Chris Cuomo has lost his fucking mind in. This guy has lost his fucking mind. Like, I cannot stand him. He's always been dumb, just to be clear. He has always been dumb. He's never been a very bright guy. Those are just words. Threatening to kill somebody? Yeah, those are just words, bro.
Attempt, it's fine.
Well, it's no assassination attempt. They never had hands on him. They didn't do anything to him. But my point is speech versus actions, okay? But Ken, speech versus
killing of a
actions.
Democratic lawmaker this summer, murder.
Yeah, Hortman was killed. Two people were killed. Yes.
That was murder.
Go ahead, Ken.
And Charlie Kirk's killing was murder. Speech is not violence, which is something we hear a lot in the rhetoric about free speech. Violence is violence. And one of the reasons it's important to reject the speech as violence, which is one of the excuses I'm hearing an awful lot about excusing Charlie Kirk's murder, is because then you devalue the significance on a moral basis of actual violence. And it's important, an opportunity for unity that I think still exists is for everyone to reject violence for political ends. Chris, you'll remember I said this over and over and over back in 2020 when I was the deputy secretary and cities across the country were burning. And then elected officials were very accepting, frankly, and excusing. Some of them were helping in the form of bailing people out.
Chris Cuomo. Donald Trump tweeted out, "At Chris Cuomo, I got you very good ratings. Can I borrow your Twitter account for 2 weeks?" Chris Cuomo said, "That would make me as complicit as the Retrumplicans who helped foment an insurrection." Huh. Interesting. Chris Cuomo never called it an insurrection. He never said that. He never said it was an insurrection. What? That never happened. I never called it that. Retrumplicans? What the fuck? That's such a stupid fucking term. Retrumplicans? Got him. Oh, Retrumplicans. Ha. Suck on that.
And then elected officials were very accepting, frankly, and excusing. Some of them were helping in the form of bailing people out, violent protesters. You even noted that early on in that process that these things don't always have to be peaceful. And I disagree. They do have.
He did say that. He did say that. He did say, who says protests are supposed to be peaceful?
Have to be peaceful. That's something we should all, left and right, be able to agree on. It's still there to be a unifying point, the rejection of violence, which is something.
Yeah, Mehdi Hasan did. Hi, Chris Cuomo. Thanks for having me on. But just doing a fact check, you told me I was wrong and you had never called January 6th an insurrection. I count at least 10 times on Twitter back then when you did call it an insurrection and even mocked those who denied it. Some receipts. This person said the facts are clear. The president incited insurrection. The law is clear. A president attacking his own government is the highest of crimes. Trump must go, as I told Chris Cuomo on CNN. And Chris Cuomo said, and yet so many still want to equate the insurrection with other outbursts over the summer, as if it is just more of the same. It isn't. And until the GOP starts echoing that message, we will be stuck. As he's sitting here listening to this motherfucker immediately turn to they bailed out violent protesters and rioters during BLM. And he's sitting there, I never called it an insurrection. This never happened. This person said, forget righty outlets. What if Kevin puts the insurrectionists on the committee? Chris Cuomo said, doubtful, but the facts surrounding the infamy of the January 6th insurrection will overpower any bullshit. This person said, Deb at GE said, Trump should be held accountable for this. He spoke with the rioters and encouraged this. Shaking my damn head. Chris Cuomo said, have you ever heard Trump call for Congress to follow the Constitution and certify? The answer is no. And that's the proof of his position here. He is the worst and people will do the worst at his urging. Sedition, leaders need to step up, put this insurrection down and follow the law. Hoo-wee! Chris Cuomo. Good sir.
Charlie Kirk lived and died for. People who actually watched him interact with people who disagreed with him. You know, you and I are very passionate. Mehdi's obviously very passionate. Charlie was incredibly level in how he communicated with people. He was firm, but he never got angry. He didn't call people names.
This is the meme. This is the meme where they just say, "Oh, yes, he was so nice while using hateful rhetoric. He was so nice while he was being racist. He was so nice while he called for genocide. He was so nice. He spoke very calmly. You guys can't be mad about this. He was very, very calm. He's moderate." Yeah, I saw. So Andrew Wilson was the one who kept saying that Charlie Kirk was a moderate just because a lot of people on the right believe the same things as him. That doesn't make him a moderate. But even today, Andrew Wilson was saying that Destiny is a moderate on the left, and that Destiny is not a moderate. Destiny is not. He's not moderate at all. He isn't. He's probably what we would call a progressive liberal. He's or at least at the edge of getting from liberal to progressive liberal. But yeah, he is not a moderate. I don't think people understand what moderate means. I think Andrew Wilson thinks moderate means that you just like share what the majority of your side thinks.
He respected them. He told them he respected them. And frankly, it's a model for all of us, left and right, to emulate, not the violence.
Well, I don't know about emulating everything about it, but that's not the point. Two quick things, and then back to you, Mehdi. The first thing is that I never said that protests aren't supposed to be peaceful. I know what the First Amendment is. What I said was, at the time when the protests first started, there was so much pushback against the speech. What are they saying? They're saying things that
No, he literally said, whoever said protests are supposed to be peaceful.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
Show me where it says protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful. I never said that.
I never said that protests aren't supposed to be peaceful. I know what the First Amendment is. What I said was, at the time when the protests first started, there was so much pushback against the speech. What are they saying? They're saying things that cops, they're saying the ugliest things, the worst things. And I said, what do you think they're going to do? Sing slave hymns and then go home? You know, nobody ever said it's going to be peaceful out there. They're going to say a lot of things that are going to bother you. That's the price of our freedom and our democracy.
That is not what he said. He said, who said protests are supposed to be peaceful?
In this country. That was my point. Now, Mehdi, the idea of, is it time, place, and manner that, hey, I condemn this. This is unacceptable, what happened to Charlie Kirk. But he said a lot of things that were fill in the blank of extremist and abhorrent things. Why put the right now?
So, Chris, I'm glad you...
What the fuck just happened?
Abhorrent things. Why put the right now?
So, Chris, I'm glad you asked me that question. It's a perfect timing because with respect to Ken made a very good point about rejecting violence. I agree with Ken. The problem, of course, is that Ken's former boss, Donald Trump, pardoned a bunch of politically violent people earlier this year. He's even dangled pardons in front of the kidnappers.
So did Joe Biden.
The attempted, I'm not here to defend Joe Biden, but Donald Trump pardoned a bunch of political extremists who attacked the Capitol, and he's also, Chris, dangled pardons in front of the people who wanted to kidnap and maybe kill Gretchen Whitmer, like horrible political extremists. He's talked about pardoning them as well. So that's a real problem, and we need the president, as you said in your introduction, to really lead on this and reject, use this killing of his friend to say, you know what, all of us tone it down. This is a president who's called his enemies scum, vermin, animals. You know, Chris, better than me what he's called his political enemies, including you. So that's what we need from the president. We're not getting it from the president. We're getting more kind of talk of pardons. The other issue which you asked about Charlie Kirk, look, I differ from you on this, Chris, and this is what we argued on Twitter. I think public figures are not private figures. I think public figures, when they die, of course we should be respectful to their families. I've said time and again that it breaks my heart to think about what his children are going through, what his widow is going through. It's horrific what happened to him. I can't even watch that video. I refuse to watch that video of what happened to him. But he's a public figure. I'm a public figure. Chris, you're a public figure. When we die, people are going to look at what what we said and said, well, I agreed with him on this, I agreed with him on that. And the problem is Ken and the right are trying to almost deify him. What Ken just said is not true, that Charlie never called for violence, that Charlie was level. Charlie called for me to be deported from America because he didn't like a monologue I did on COVID. He called for Joe Biden to be executed by death penalty. We can go down the list. I know you don't want to hear. Let's not make this a Charlie Kirk rhetoric thing. But I don't know what else to say. When I hear Ken saying things that I think are untrue, then I have to respond. You know me, Chris, it's in my nature. I have to respond and say, well, that's not true. Here are the facts. Just last week, the day before he died, the day before he was brutally murdered, he said that Islam is the sword the left is using to slit the throat of America. I don't think that's rhetoric that people should be emulating. I find that deeply offensive.
What?
The day before he was brutally murdered, he said that Islam is the sword the left is using to slit the throat of America.
Bro, like, truly, the fucking shit this guy has said is just fucking wild, bro. Holy shit.
I don't think that's rhetoric that people should be emulating. I find that deeply offensive. Obviously, it doesn't justify killing him. Nothing justifies killing him. But please don't tell me that he was a level-headed person who never insulted or abused anyone. That's just not true. He asked for people to post bail on the guy who attacked Paul Pelosi in his home, a violent extremist, Trump supporter, election denier, who attacked Paul Pelosi in his home, is now in prison for attempted murder. Charlie called for bail to be posted for him by an American hero. So that's the kind of rhetoric I don't think we need or emulate.
Mehdi, what is the difference? What is the difference between telling the truth and rationalizing the murder? That's why I talk about time, place, and manner. That when you say, look, this is unacceptable, but he said a lot of terrible things, it sounds like you're not as upset that he was murdered because he said those things.
With respect, Chris, that's not...
What the fuck? That's not at all what he said. He said don't downplay the shit that he said. He said don't act like he was... He was a saint. Don't act like he never said offensive things. Then he listed off some of the offensive things that he said. The other guy on here is acting like he was this moderate guy who was very peaceful. They were talking about, oh, he was very nice about the way that he was saying things. Like that's what they're fucking talking about. So he's just pushing back on the idea that he was just so nice. He was such a sweet guy.
Not what I said. I said this murder is inexcusable. I've said that consistently, as have we all. But I was responding to Ken saying that Charlie was X, Y, Z. If Ken and the right, and Ken, I'm not picking on you, but the right in general, were not treating him like a new MLK. I'm seeing people saying he was a literal saint. He should have a statue put up in Congress. Chris, am I supposed to just let that go and not say, we probably shouldn't have a statue in Congress for a man who says Islam is a religion being used to slit the throat of the West, that Muslims like me are conquering?
Can you imagine, bro? Can you imagine if they actually put a statue of him up in front of Congress with other leaders in our country, that they would put a statue up of Charlie Kirk? And can you imagine when in the next election a Democrat wins, how quickly they would probably get rid of that statue, and then these people would shit their fucking pants over it?
This is the kind of stuff he said. Am I supposed to not respond to that political rhetoric?
Well, I think it's about how you respond to it and when you respond to it. The guy was just murdered. I mean, there's a reason why when people die, if you go to the wake, you don't stare down at the box, and say the guy was kind of a bum too. And that's why your interview with Omar bothered a lot of people.
If I may.
Hold on. Just 1 second. Look. 1 second, Ken, because Chris just brought up...
Well, let him get it. Let him get it and you'll get it back.
For a lot of seconds.
My last point on this. Chris, you misrepresented Ilhan Omar. You echoed...
Yeah, the other guy has barely talked. He got asked one question and said one thing, and now it's just been the two of them going back and forth. But the reason that Mehdi Hasan's on here at all is because Chris Cuomo and Mehdi Hasan have been going back and forth for the last week. And so the fact that they were having a fight, Chris Cuomo invited him on, but instead of actually engaging with Mehdi by himself, he brought on this other guy as a shield. Now is having him sit there and play third fiddle to this debate. And now he's trying to have this back and forth with Mehdi Hasan when it should have just been the two of them.
A tweet from a right-wing person who said that she was celebrating his death, that she said he had it coming. Completely false. And we are journalists, Chris. We're in the truth business, not the non-offensive business. You should delete that tweet because it's not accurate.
It's not happening.
She never said he had it coming. She condemned it. She said she was upset for his wife.
No, I didn't say she said it had. She had it.
The guy you
coming. What she did was
the guy you retweeted did. He falsely put words in her mouth.
But that doesn't mean I own what he says. You ever see retweets don't include endorsements? Everybody says on this stupid prophylaxis Twitter. It's not a false claim.
Yeah, he's saying that the guy misrepresented her. Who are they talking about? Is it Ilhan Omar?
Omar bothered a box, you know. And
what did she say? I haven't seen.
Because, Lisa, we are hearing takes like this from some members of Congress, Democrat members of Congress, including AOC, and Ilhan Omar responding to Charlie Kirk's death. Listen.
Yeah, there is nothing more up, you know, like than to completely pretend that, you know, his words and actions have not been recorded and in existence for the last decade. These people are full of shit, and it's important for us to call them out.
I don't think
What? Oh, I can't believe she said that. Oh, man. Oh, that's fucked up. Yeah, she's fucked. Yeah, there's no way. You can't say that Charlie Kirk's statements have been recorded and are out there. That's fucked up. I can't believe she said. I can't believe she said that. That's definitely fucked up to pretend as though his words have been recorded and are out there. Yeah, that's her literally celebrating his death right now. That's literally what she just did. She just made excuses for why it's okay to murder him. Yep.
Single person who has dedicated their entire career to preventing gun safety legislation from getting passed in this House has any right to blame anybody else but themselves for what is happening.
Lisa?
Well, they literally just made excuses for him dying, so.
Well, I think it's about how you respond to it and when you respond to it. The guy was just murdered. I mean, there's a reason why when people die, if you go to the wake, you don't stare down at the box, you know, and say the guy was kind of a bum too. And that's why your interview with Omar bothered a lot of people.
If I may,
hold on.
She wasn't at his wake. She was on a fucking YouTube channel. Now, I'm not going to say that what she said on that YouTube channel is recorded and out there. Okay? I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to go that far. But she wasn't at his wake.
Look, 1 second, Ken, because Chris just brought up.
Well, let him get it.
I've sat aside for a lot of seconds.
My last point on this. Chris, you misrepresented Ilhan Omar. You echoed a tweet from a right-wing person who said that she was celebrating his death, that she said he had it coming. Completely false. And we are journalists, Chris. We're in the truth business, not the non-offensive business. You should delete that tweet because it's not accurate.
It's not happening.
She never said he had it coming. She condemned it. She said she was upset for his wife.
No, I didn't say she said it had. She had it.
The guy you
retweeted
what she did was the guy you retweeted did. He falsely put words in her mouth.
But that doesn't mean I own what he says. You ever see retweets don't include endorsements? Everybody says
yes. Everybody does not say that. Right-wing nut jobs who want absolutely no accountability for the things that they're putting out to their audiences say that. Nobody else says that shit. Yes, if you retweet something, you are saying this is fine as is. I endorse this. That is what you're saying. That is what a retweet is. A retweet is saying this as is good. That's why people look at ratios between retweets and quote tweets, because they assume if somebody's quote tweeting you that they're likely saying something that differs with what it is that you said. So if they quote tweet you, which isn't always the case, but the majority of them, yes, or at least they want to add to what it is that you said. But if you're retweeting something, you're saying this as is. I'm giving this to my audience just like this.
On this stupid prophylaxis Twitter. It's not a false claim because here's why. That was his take on her saying, I condemn it, I worry about his family, but this is what he said.
That's false.
I don't think so. And look, people can decide for themselves. Ken, last word to you.
What a fucking coward, dude. Chris Cuomo has lost his fucking mind, bro. There's Project Sadface is in chat all the time, bugging me to watch Chris Cuomo in News Nation saying how great they are. Chris Cuomo is a fucking loser. He was a loser when he was on CNN. He's a loser now. He's a fucking weirdo.
Yeah, so look, we started in a place, and the president can sometimes make himself, in the manner he presents himself, more difficult to defend. But I'll go back to my experience in 2020. First of all, I agree with both of you. There is violence across the spectrum. I think we should all be able to reject violence. That did not happen when I was in a position of responsibility in 2020. Instead, the Speaker of the House called police trying to keep protesters, violent criminals from doing damage, stormtroopers. And lots of elected officials on the left were...
Wait, did this just skip again?
Stormtroopers. Violent criminals from doing damage, stormtroopers. And lots of elected officials on the left were critical of those of us trying to do...
Okay, he said that in the weirdest fucking way. So she called the people who were there, who were supposed to stop everybody from doing damage. He called them stormtroopers, which, yeah, everybody freaked out about this, saying that calling them stormtroopers was advocating for violence against them. That is what they said. I had numerous debates with people about this where they said, you can't call them stormtroopers. That's advocating for violence against them. So you guys are fucking insane. First off, all those people who they called stormtroopers didn't have any badges on them. They didn't have any identifying symbology on them. You didn't know if they were feds. You didn't know if they were with the county. You didn't know if they were with the city. You didn't know what their name was. You didn't know if they were police. You didn't know if it was somebody just dressed in black. You didn't know if you got hit or if something happened. You didn't know how to report that person or who they were so that you could report them. You didn't know what office or precinct to report them to. Like, it was just nothing. It was just people wearing black with black fucking helmets on, and that was it. And so, yeah, they started calling them stormtroopers.
Enforce the law until January 6th. And then all of a sudden, the police were their best friends. And I'm glad the police suddenly became their best friends. But the fact of the matter is, and polling shows this, there has been a rising acceptance of violence in opposition to positions and speech with which...
What I do know for sure is that, you know, Charlie was someone who once said, guns save lives. After a school shooting. Charlie was someone who was willing to debate and downplay the death of George Floyd in the hands of Minneapolis police.
I think he called him a scumbag.
Right, have no regard, downplay slavery and what Black people have gone through in this country by saying Juneteenth should never exist. And I think, there are a lot of people who are out there talking about him just wanting to have a civil debate.
Complete rewriting of history.
Yeah, there is nothing more effed up, than to completely pretend that, his words and actions have not been recorded and in existence for the last decade or so. And
that's it. I keep thinking there's probably going to be something else here. There's got to be something here that they're talking about. There's got to be a thing here. So this guy said, Ilhan Omar, while grinning, says Charlie Kirk deserved it and had it coming. He downplayed George Floyd and slavery.
$10. More Tom, please.
Thank you. Let's go.
Tom putting in more work than actual journalist.
True, boy. So yeah, he said, Ilhan Omar, while grinning, says Charlie Kirk deserved it and had it coming. He downplayed George Floyd and slavery. And then in quotes again, people say he wanted to have a civil debate. It's bullshit. I want her deported immediately. Like, you got to be fucking kidding me, dude. You got to be fucking kidding me. These people are so fucking gross, dude. Oh my goodness, they're so gross. I don't know. This guy looks like he should be deported. Just saying. Just saying. He looks very deportable. So Chris Cuomo quote tweeted this. He didn't retweet it apparently, but he did quote tweet it, and he said, this is what gets you paid in politics. Division and extremism drive algorithms on social. What a fucking loser, dude. This person said, you're posting a tiny clipped up portion of their exchange where they note Kirk's problematic views, conveniently skipping the part where they categorically condemned his killing. And they are driving rage and division on social media. Chris Cuomo's cynical cherry-picking of clips to fuel rage exposes him as the ultimate hypocrisy machine, peddling the very division he pretends to decry. Delete it now, fraud. True. Chris Cuomo. Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful. He never said that. He never said that. I didn't say that.
And then all of a sudden the police were their best friends. And I'm glad the police suddenly became their best friends. But the fact of the matter is, and polling shows this, there has been a rising acceptance of violence in opposition to positions and speech with which people disagree. And the data has shown for many years that there is a substantial difference, and the left is far more willing to take active physical steps to shut down disagreement than those on the right.
It's acceptable to be happy about the death of a public figure you oppose. People who are very liberal, 24% agree. Liberal, 10% agree. 7% who are moderate. 4% who are conservative. 3% who are very conservative. This is the very liberal, which is a stupid way of putting it. This is like the fact that YouGov is a political polling center and they put very liberal as the option there is really fucking stupid. I'm blown away that these people are so clueless in the way that they word this shit. But 24% is a high number, yet this is not saying that they're in favor of political violence. This is not saying that they want people to do political violence. This is not any of those things. Now, it can encourage political violence. It definitely could do that. But you can be happy about this shit. Like, again, the conservatives have shown time in and time out that they are happy to be happy when liberals are gonna die. Like, we've played tons and tons of clips, shown tons and tons of tweets from leaders within the Republican Party, and the only difference is that they say they are principally against it, and then they go and do it. What they say is not what they do, right? If you ask them if they're in favor of limiting free speech, they would say no, but then they would vote for people who say they're going to go do it. If you ask them, are you in favor of tyranny? They would say no, and then they would vote for tyrants. If you ask them, are you in favor of fascism? They would say no, and then they'd go vote for fascists. So it doesn't mean much that they say they're not in favor of this shit, because when it comes down to it, their leaders within their party are the only ones who celebrate people's deaths and people's sickness and people's demise, whereas the leadership on the left does not do this. There's no leadership on the left who does any of this shit. It is something that only exists on the right. That's it. It's only on the right. Nowhere else.
The right is now coming up in that data. Excuse me, I sat quietly. And the left is far ahead on that, and the president is correct on that point. I
think there's a difference. There's a difference between
any
stated
organizations funding violence prosecuted.
There's a difference between a stated preference and the actual actions that play out. People say a lot of things in polls, but Ken, I take your point. Mehdi, I take your points. But here's the most important thing, and I can't believe I have to say this. Know this. I care about Ken Cuccinelli. I care about Mehdi Hasan, okay? I respect their take. It doesn't matter if I agree. And I need to say that because of where we are. Thank you for watching. Subscribe.
Sheesh, dude. Okay, so they do know how to change the audio on their shows. What the fuck? I had to crank that by 25% just to make it to where you guys could hear them. Every time I went from one clip to the other, I had to keep upping and downing the audio levels because News Nation doesn't know how to change their fucking volume. Holy shnikes.